The Altair was the largest gathering of alien species ever recorded in galactic history. The station, a colossal structure of interlocking rings and shimmering alloys, hovered in the neutral expanse of the Relic system, serving as the epicenter of interspecies diplomacy, trade, and competition. For centuries, it had been the arena for the Galactic Games, a display of prowess where the most advanced civilizations showcased their superiority in combat, science, and athletic feats. And this year humanity had, for the first time, been invited to participate. Aaron Locke, Earth's envoy and captain of the human contingent, stood on the central platform of the station, dwarfed by towering representatives of species that had mastered faster-than-light travel before humanity had discovered fire. His heart pounded beneath his crisp uniform as thousands of alien eyes locked on him, some with disdain, others with amusement. Earth, the host, a serpentine creature known as Zathikra, hissed in a voice that reverberated through the amphitheater, "You have come far. But do you truly believe your primitive species can stand among the stars and compete with the best of us?" Laughter rippled through the crowd, sharp, guttural, and derisive. The Zelnari, a reptilian species whose scales glimmered like molten gold, sneered, their slitted eyes flashing with contempt. The Shuralith, a species of translucent, floating organisms that communicated through harmonic resonances, emitted a warbling tone that translated as bemusement. Aaron's jaw tightened, but he kept his expression neutral. They expected him to lash out, to make excuses for humanity's perceived weaknesses. Instead, he stepped forward, his voice steady as it carried across the amphitheater. "Earth does not claim to be the oldest, the strongest, or the fastest," Aaron began, meeting Zathikra's gaze. "But we've come here to prove one thing: we learn. We adapt. And we don't back down." Another wave of laughter erupted, but this time, it felt uneasy. Humanity's rapid rise had not gone unnoticed. In less than a century, they had gone from first contact to mastering interstellar travel and securing their place among the stars. Yet, to these ancient civilizations they were still an anomaly, a young, scrappy species punching far above its weight. Zathikra's tongue flicked in what could only be interpreted as a smirk. "Very well, human. Choose your challenge." The Galactic Games were designed to test the strengths of each participating species, with categories ranging from martial skill to scientific innovation. Humanity had been allowed to compete in only one category, a concession granted after years of lobbying by Earth's diplomatic corps. Zathikra's challenge was clear: pick a single event and face off against the galaxy's best. Win, and humanity would earn the respect of the Council. Lose, and Earth would forever be relegated to the status of a second-rate civilization. Aaron and his team convened in the human delegation's quarters, a sleek yet modest area compared to the opulent chambers of the elder species. The mood was tense. "We can't win in physical combat," said Commander Lin Wu, her tone grim. "The Zelnari have been perfecting their warriors for millennia. And don't even think about outsmarting the Vren," she added, gesturing toward the amphibious species known for their unparalleled mastery of physics. Dr. Karen Patel, the team's chief scientist, folded her arms. "What about engineering? We've made huge advances in AI and robotics. Maybe we can—" "No," Aaron interrupted. "They'll expect that. They'll have countermeasures ready. We need to play to our strengths, something uniquely human." The room fell silent as the team pondered the challenge. Finally, Lieutenant Darius Cole, a former sniper with Earth's Unified Defense Force, leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips. "They mock us for being primitive, right? For relying on muscle and instinct? Let's give them exactly what they don't expect. Let's pick precision shooting." Karen frowned. "You're suggesting we compete in marksmanship against species with built-in targeting systems and neural precision networks? That's suicide, is it?" Darius countered, his tone calm but confident. "They're advanced, sure. But they're also over-reliant on their tech. Shooting isn't just about precision, it's about intuition, adaptability, and timing. Those are things you can't program." Aaron's eyes narrowed as he considered the suggestion. "It's a gamble," he admitted. "But it might be the only card we've got." The announcement of humanity's chosen challenge sent shockwaves through the station. The idea that humans would compete in marksmanship, a discipline dominated by the Kinradi, a crystalline species whose lattice-like bodies housed hyper-accurate targeting arrays, was met with widespread ridicule. "The humans truly are primitive," one Zelnari warrior sneered. "They think their crude weapons can match the elegance of true precision." Even Zathikra seemed amused. "You have chosen marksmanship?" the serpentine host hissed, its voice dripping with condescension. "Very well. Prepare to face the Kinradi, champions of the Obsidian Circuit. They have never been defeated. Aaron kept his expression unreadable. We'll see. The day of the competition arrived, and the amphitheater buzzed with anticipation. The arena had been transformed into a sprawling obstacle course, filled with moving targets, shifting platforms, and holographic decoys designed to test every facet of a shooter's skill. The Kinradi champion, a towering figure named Xylaris, stood at one end of the field, its crystalline form refracting light into dazzling rainbows. At the other end, Darius Cole prepared his weapon, a sleek, custom-built rail rifle engineered for speed and accuracy. The first round began with a standard test of precision, stationary targets placed at increasing distances. Xylaris moved with mechanical grace, each shot perfectly calibrated. The crystalline champion hit every target dead center, the crowd roaring with approval. Darius stepped up next, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. He took his time, adjusting for the subtle pull of the station's artificial gravity. His first shot rang out, striking the bullseye with pinpoint accuracy. Then another. And another. By the end of the round he had matched Xylaris' score, a feat that left the crowd murmuring in surprise. The second round introduced moving targets, their speed and erratic patterns designed to challenge even the most advanced targeting systems. Xylaris performed flawlessly, its crystalline sensors adjusting to the target's movements with inhuman precision. Once again the alien crowd erupted in cheers. Darius's turn came and he took a deep breath, his fingers steady on the trigger. Unlike Xylaris, he didn't rely on cold calculation. He watched the targets, feeling their rhythm, anticipating their movements. His shots weren't perfect, but they were effective, each one finding its mark. When the scores were tallied, he was still tied with Xylaris, a result that sent ripples of disbelief through the arena. By the final round, the arena had transformed into chaos. Targets zipped through the air, holographic decoys flickered in and out of existence, and platforms shifted unpredictably. Xylaris moved with robotic precision, its crystalline body glowing as it processed the overwhelming data stream. Darius meanwhile grinned. This was where humans thrived, in unpredictability. He ignored the decoys, focused on the targets, and adjusted to the shifting terrain with the ease of someone who had spent years training in real-world conditions. His shots were instinctive, almost improvisational, yet they landed true. When the final score was displayed, the amphitheater fell silent. Darius had not only tied with Xylaris, he had surpassed it, hitting one additional target in the chaotic final seconds. The silence was broken by a slow, deliberate clap. It was Zathikra, its serpentine face inscrutable. Impressive, the host admitted, its voice grudgingly respectful. It seems we underestimated you. Aaron stood, his expression calm but triumphant. Humanity has a habit of surprising people. But as the applause began to grow, Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. Darius's victory had proven humanity's adaptability and intuition, but it had also drawn attention, dangerous attention. The Galactic Games were about more than just sport. They were a test, a way for the elder species to gauge the threat level of newcomers. And humanity had just painted itself as a target. The days following Darius's unexpected victory were a whirlwind of tension and scrutiny. Humanity's triumph in the marksmanship challenge had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. The elder species, particularly those who had spent millennia perfecting their own precision and combat strategies, were not only surprised, they were offended. The Zelnari delegation, led by their imposing warlord Sirik, wasted no time in stoking the flames of discontent. Their deep-set eyes, glittering with malice, often found Aaron Locke in the bustling corridors of the Alt-Heron. The human's victory is nothing more than a fluke, Sirik sneered one day, his voice loud enough for passers-by to hear. They lack the discipline of the Kinradi, the intellect of the Vren, or the strength of the Zelnari. A random convergence of luck is not proof of superiority. Aaron stood firm, his diplomatic training keeping his expression neutral. Luck favors the prepared, warlord. You can call it what you want, but Darius won that challenge fair and square. The tension between them hung thick in the air, but Aaron knew better than to engage further. Sirik's words weren't meant for him, they were meant for the audience of alien dignitaries who now watched humanity with equal parts curiosity and contempt. Back in the human delegation's quarters, the mood was less triumphant than Aaron had hoped. Darius, who had become something of a reluctant hero, sat sharpening his combat knife with an intensity that suggested he was preparing for something far worse than another shooting competition. "They're not going to let this go, you know," he muttered, his voice low. "These aliens don't just see this as a game. We embarrassed them. Karen Patel nodded, her face drawn with worry. He's right. The Zelnari and the Kinrati are furious, and the others aren't far behind. We've disrupted the balance here. If they can't discredit us outright, they'll find another way. Anika leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Let them try. They think we're weak because we're new, because we haven't been in space as long as they have. But if they push us too far, they'll find out exactly what we're capable of. Aaron raised a hand, silencing the group. That's exactly what we can't afford. If we escalate this into a direct conflict, we lose. Humanity isn't ready for a full-scale war with the Council species. We've got to play this smart. But what's their next move? Karen asked. If they don't challenge us outright, what will they do? Aaron's lips pressed into a thin line. They'll bait us into overplaying our hand. And we'll have to be ready when they do. Aaron's prediction proved accurate the very next day when Zathikra summoned the human delegation to the council chamber. The massive hall, filled with representatives from over 50 species, was a dazzling spectacle of alien architecture, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that reflected the mood of the assembly. Today the colors were sharp and accusatory. Zathikra coiled on its elevated platform, its serpentine body shimmering in the ambient light. Humans, it began, its tone heavy with condescension, you have proven your skill in a primitive art. But precision shooting is merely a test of individual ability. True power lies in strategy, in teamwork, in the ability to unite and overcome. Aaron's heart sank. He could feel the trap closing around them. We propose a new challenge, Zathikra continued, its forked tongue flicking. A combat simulation, pitting your team against a coalition of the Council's finest. Let us see if your species is as adaptable and resourceful as you claim. The chamber erupted into murmurs. The challenge was unprecedented, a deliberate escalation meant to test humanity's limits. Aaron's instincts screamed at him to refuse, but he knew what that would mean. To decline was to admit weakness, to validate the Council's doubts about Earth's place among the stars. Darius leaned in, his voice low. We can't back down from this. They'll crush us politically if we do. Aaron nodded slowly, his mind racing. Agreed. But if we accept, we'll be walking into their trap. They want to humiliate us, Anika said, her tone firm. Let's make sure they don't get the chance. The challenge was set for the following day, giving the human team little time to prepare. The simulation arena, a sprawling holographic environment capable of generating any terrain or scenario, was a marvel of alien technology. The human delegation gathered in their quarters, reviewing the parameters of the challenge. It's a team-based combat scenario, Karen explained, her holographic display projecting a map of the simulated battlefield. Urban environment, high-density structures, and multiple objectives. We'll be up against a coalition team from the Zelnari, Kinrati, and Vren. Darius let out a low whistle. That's a hell of a lineup. They've got brute strength, precision, and intelligence all rolled into one. And what do we have? Anika asked, her tone challenging. Aaron looked around the room, his gaze steady. We have the one thing they don't, unpredictability. They're expecting us to play by their rules, to fight the way they do. But we're not going to give them that. He turned to Karen. I need you to focus on countermeasures. The Vren will try to manipulate the simulation's algorithms in their favor. We need a way to neutralize that. Karen nodded, already pulling up schematics on her console. On it? Aaron's attention shifted to Anika and Darius. You two will lead the ground team. Focus on mobility and misdirection. Hid and fade tactics. Make them chase shadows. And what about you? Darius asked. Aaron's expression hardened. I'll handle the command center. They'll expect us to rely on brute force, but this is going to be a game of strategy. We'll use their strengths against them. The arena was alive with anticipation as the simulation began. The holographic environment shimmered into existence, creating a sprawling cityscape of towering skyscrapers, winding alleyways, and hidden tunnels. The human team, clad in sleek combat suits, took their positions, their helmets displaying real-time data feeds. Aaron's voice crackled over their comms. Remember, this isn't about winning a firefight. It's about controlling the battlefield. Stick to the plan. The coalition team moved with ruthless efficiency. The Zelnari's brute force tactics shattered obstacles in their path, while the Kinrati's precision strikes pinned down key positions. The Vren, meanwhile, manipulated the environment itself, collapsing buildings and rerouting pathways to isolate the human team. But humanity fought back with ingenuity. Anika and Darius led their squad through the labyrinthine streets, laying traps and using the city's verticality to outmaneuver their pursuers. Karen's countermeasures disrupted the Vren's algorithms, creating glitches that turned their own manipulations against them. Aaron, from his command center, orchestrated the chaos, directing his team with precision and foresight. Darius, pull back to Grid 6. Anika, take your squad through the North Passage. Karen, I need a blackout on their targeting systems. Now. The tide began to turn. The coalition team, used to overwhelming their opponents with superior tactics and technology, found themselves on the defensive. Humanity's adaptability, their ability to think outside the rigid frameworks of the elder species, gave them the edge. By the time the simulation ended, the human team had achieved a stunning victory, capturing all objectives and outmaneuvering the coalition at every turn. As the simulation dissolved, the arena fell silent. The elder species, their pride wounded, could only watch as Zathikra slithered forward, its expression unreadable. Impressive, it said, though the word sounded like it left a bitter taste. Perhaps humanity is not as primitive as we thought. Aaron stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. We don't seek to dominate or humiliate. We seek only to earn our place. The chamber erupted into murmurs once more, but this time there was no laughter, only grudging respect. Humanity had proven itself not through strength or precision, but through sheer determination and ingenuity. Yet as Aaron left the arena, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Humanity had made its mark, but in doing so, it had drawn the attention of powers far greater than it was ready to face. And somewhere in the depths of space, the true challenge was waiting. The aftermath of humanity's victory in the simulated combat was a complicated mixture of grudging respect and simmering hostility. While the Galactic Council publicly acknowledged humanity's ingenuity and adaptability, whispers of conspiracy and dissatisfaction spread through the Altair like wildfire. Aaron Locke could feel the tension in every corridor, every sideways glance from the other species. Darius leaned against the briefing room's wall, his arms crossed as Karen detailed the Council's latest move. They're pushing hard, she said, gesturing to the holographic display of a formal message. They've issued a new challenge, a long-range planetary assault scenario. We'll have to engage a simulated enemy on a planet's surface, neutralize a high-priority target, and extract under a time limit. Darius scoffed. They're stacking the deck against us. They've seen we can outthink them in close combat, so now they're testing our ability to handle a larger battlefield. Karen nodded. Exactly. This isn't just a challenge, it's an opportunity for them to discredit us. If we fail, they'll say our adaptability is limited, that we can't handle complex, large-scale operations. Aaron, seated at the head of the table, remained silent for a moment, deep in thought. They're trying to box us in, he said finally. They want to expose a weakness. But if they think they can break us with this, they're wrong. The room fell silent, the weight of the challenge sinking in. Anika broke the tension. What's the target? Karen's hologram shifted, displaying a simulated map of a rocky, barren world with jagged peaks and deep ravines. The scenario is set on Threxus 4. The target is a heavily fortified installation at the planet's equator. We'll face automated defenses, aerial opposition, and ground-based enemies. The catch. The target is surrounded by a shield system that can only be taken down by synchronizing 3 separate uplink towers scattered across the terrain. Darius whistled. So, we're supposed to split up, fight through hostile forces, take down the uplinks, and storm the fortress, all under a time limit? Sounds like a death sentence. Aaron's lips curved into a faint smile. Not if we turn their rules against them. The day of the challenge arrived, and the arena had been transformed once again. This time, the audience viewed the battlefield from massive holographic displays, watching as the simulated terrain came to life. Threxus 4 was a harsh, unforgiving environment, its skies choked with ash and its ground riddled with jagged rocks. The human team stood on a drop platform, their combat suits adjusted for the new scenario. Zathikra's voice boomed across the amphitheater. Humans, you face not only the test of the terrain but the finest strategic algorithms developed by the Kinrati and the Vren. You have 1 hour to neutralize the target and extract. Begin. The countdown started and Aaron's voice came through the team's comms. We stick to the plan. Anika, you take the east uplink. Darius, the west. Karen, stay mobile and disrupt their defenses where needed. I'll guide from above. As the team deployed, the alien coalition watching from the stands expected chaos. They expected humanity to falter in the face of such an overwhelming task. What they didn't expect was a perfectly coordinated execution of a plan designed to exploit every weakness in the scenario. Anika's team moved swiftly across the jagged eastern terrain, their suits' adaptive systems compensating for the unstable ground. Automated drones swarmed from hidden alcoves, their energy blasts lighting up the darkened sky, but Anika's squad held their ground. She barked orders, her voice steady and commanding, as they picked off the drones with calculated precision. Tower in sight, Anika reported as the uplink came into view, its spire shimmering with the telltale glow of energy shields. Setting charges to breach the perimeter. Meanwhile, on the western front, Darius's team faced heavier resistance. Vren-designed mechs patrolled the area, their movements fluid and almost organic. Darius grinned, his rail rifle humming as he took aim. "Karen, I hope you've got a surprise for these things." Karen's voice crackled over the comms. "Sending you a distraction now. Hold tight." A surge of electromagnetic interference rippled through the area, and the mechs faltered, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. Darius didn't waste a second, leading his team through the confusion and taking down the remaining defenses with ruthless efficiency. "West uplink neutralized," he reported, his voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through him. From the command center, Aaron monitored the battlefield, his mind racing as he adjusted the plan in real time. The enemy AI had begun to adapt, redirecting reinforcements to the final uplink tower in the north. "Karen, they're converging on the north tower. You'll have to clear the path." Karen's modified drone fleet whirred to life, their holographic decoys creating chaos among the enemy ranks. "On it," she replied, her fingers flying over her control panel. "They won't know what hit them." The north tower was the most heavily fortified, its defenses a mix of automated turrets and cloaked snipers. Karen's drones engaged the turrets, drawing their fire, while the human team advanced under the cover of smoke and debris. As the uplink came into view, Aaron's voice cut through the comms. "Time's running out. You've got 5 minutes to take it down." "Piece of cake," Anika muttered, planting the final charges and triggering the uplink's collapse. With all 3 towers neutralized, the fortress's shields flickered and fell, exposing the target. The final assault was a blur of coordinated strikes and desperate maneuvers. The fortress's automated defenses unleashed a hail of fire, but the human team pressed forward, their movements a seamless blend of aggression and precision. Darius led the charge, his rail rifle tearing through the last line of defense, while Anika and Karen covered his flank. As the timer hit the final seconds, Aaron's voice came through. "Target neutralized. Extract now." The team regrouped at the extraction point, their shuttle roaring to life as it lifted off the simulated battlefield. The amphitheater erupted into chaos, the elder species struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Back in the council chamber, Zathikra addressed the human delegation, its tone no longer dripping with condescension. "Humanity has proven itself yet again. You are formidable." Aaron nodded, his expression calm but resolute. "We're not here to prove we're the best. We're here to prove we belong." The council's murmurs were quieter this time, the laughter and mockery replaced by something else, caution. Humanity's victories had shaken the established order, and while they had earned a measure of respect, they had also made enemies. As the human team left the chamber, Darius glanced at Aaron. "They're not done with us. You know that, right?" Aaron's gaze was distant, his mind already turning to the next challenge. "Let them come. We've shown them what humanity can do. Now they'll have to decide whether to fear us, or work with us." But deep down, Aaron knew the true test was still to come. For while the Council's games were a way to gauge humanity's potential, they were also a prelude to something far greater, a conflict that would decide not just Earth's place in the galaxy, but the fate of every species that called it home. The aftershocks of humanity's second victory rippled through the Galactic Council like a silent detonation. The elder species, who had grown accustomed to their roles as arbiters of galactic power, now viewed humanity with wary eyes. Victory in the simulation had been decisive, yet it was clear that their respect came begrudgingly, tainted by resentment and suspicion. Aaron Locke felt the weight of it all as he stood before the council once again, this time facing not just Zathikra but the assembled representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy. The amphitheater hummed with tense energy, the bioluminescent walls shifting between shades of agitation and restraint. Zathikra's voice broke the silence. "Humans, your adaptability and ingenuity are undeniable. Yet we cannot ignore the disruption your victories have caused. You stand here today not as an equal but as a curiosity, a species whose success raises more questions than answers." Aaron's jaw tightened, but his expression remained calm. "We've only sought to prove that humanity has a place among you, not as a threat, but as a partner." A low murmur spread through the chamber, voices in a dozen alien tongues expressing skepticism. Warlord Sirik of the Zelnari stepped forward, his towering frame casting a shadow over Aaron. You speak of partnership, yet your actions betray a desire to dominate. Twice now you have embarrassed us before the galaxy. What is your true purpose here? Aaron hesitated for only a moment before replying. Survival? The single word cut through the noise like a blade, silencing the room. Aaron stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with an intensity that commanded attention. Humanity doesn't seek dominance or conquest. We seek survival in a galaxy where threats loom far beyond what any of us can face alone. As Aaron spoke, the rest of the human delegation stood in silent solidarity. Anika, Darius, and Karen flanked him, their presence a reminder of the victories that had brought them to this moment. The images of the Threxus 4 simulation flashed on the Council's holographic displays, human soldiers outmaneuvering advanced alien algorithms, turning the elder species' strengths against them. The challenges you've set before us, Aaron continued, were meant to test our worth. And we've proven ourselves. But the truth is, humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to adapt or fight, it's our ability to see the bigger picture. Zathikra's tongue flicked, its serpentine body shifting with unease. And what human do you claim to see that we do not? Aaron gestured to the holographic map of the galaxy that hung above the council floor. He tapped a series of points near the galactic rim, where faint red markers glowed ominously. We've seen the patterns. Disappearances along trade routes. Silent colonies. Faint energy signatures in places where no ships should be. The room grew colder as Aaron's words sank in. We've been watching and we know you've seen it too. Something is coming. Something bigger than any of us. You've ignored it, maybe out of fear, maybe out of arrogance. But humanity doesn't have the luxury of ignorance. We've spent our entire existence fighting for survival. And we're telling you now, if we don't stand together, none of us will survive what's coming. The silence that followed was suffocating. Aaron scanned the faces of the council, gauging their reactions. Some, like Zathikra, appeared contemplative. Others, like Warlord Sirik, bristled with barely contained rage. But it was the Vren ambassador, a slender, insectoid figure named Thrynix, who broke the silence. You speak of unity, Thrynix said, its voice a soft chitter. Yet unity requires trust, and trust is not earned through victory alone. Why should we believe that humanity's warnings are anything more than a ploy to secure your position? Aaron turned to Thrynix, meeting its multifaceted gaze. Because we're willing to risk everything to prove it? The meeting adjourned without resolution, leaving humanity's warning hanging in the air. Back in their quarters, the human delegation regrouped, their expressions a mix of frustration and determination. They're not going to listen, Darius said, pacing the room. They think we're just trying to scare them into giving us a seat at the table. They're scared of losing control, Anika added. We've upset their balance, and now they're too blinded by pride to see the real threat. Aaron rubbed his temples, exhaustion creeping in. Then we show them. If they won't take our word for it, we'll give them proof. Karen frowned. What kind of proof are you talking about? Aaron stood, his eyes burning with resolve. The disappearances. The energy signatures. We trace them to their source. And if we're right, we bring the evidence back to the council. If they still won't listen, then at least humanity will know what we're up against. The decision was unanimous. Over the next several weeks, the human delegation poured their resources into tracking the anomalies Aaron had pointed out. Using data collected from human and council archives alike, they pinpointed a location, a dead system on the galactic rim, its stars dim and its planets lifeless. The Resolve, humanity's most advanced exploratory vessel, departed under the pretense of a routine survey mission. The journey was long and perilous, but when they arrived at the system, the sight that greeted them was worse than anything they had imagined. A massive structure hung in the void, its dark, angular form absorbing the faint starlight around it. It was unlike anything humanity, or the Council, had ever encountered. Its surface was covered in pulsating veins of energy, and its size dwarfed even the largest Council dreadnoughts. Scans revealed no life signs, but the energy readings were off the charts. Karen's voice trembled as she studied the data. This isn't just a ship. It's a factory. An automated war machine. Darius gripped the edge of the console. For what? What's it building? Aaron stared at the screen, his gut twisting with dread. Whatever it is, it's not for peace. Returning to the Altair, the human delegation presented their findings to the council. This time there was no laughter, no mockery. The holographic images of the dark factory ship filled the chamber, its ominous presence silencing even the most skeptical voices. Zathikra coiled tightly, its tone subdued. If what you found is true, then this is a threat to all of us. Aaron nodded. It's not just humanity's fight. This is a war for survival. And if we don't face it together, we'll all fall, alone. For the first time, the Galactic Council's divisions began to crack. The elder species, long accustomed to their dominance, found themselves united by a shared fear of the unknown. And humanity, once dismissed as an upstart species, stood at the center of it all, not as conquerors but as the architects of a fragile, desperate alliance. As Aaron and his team left the chamber, Darius clapped him on the shoulder. Well, we've done it. We've got their attention. Now what? Aaron looked back at the council chamber, his expression grim. Now we prepare. Because whatever's coming, it won't wait for us to be ready. And in the depths of space, the dark factory ship continued its silent work, building something vast, unstoppable, and utterly alien. The true target was no longer a question. It was survival itself.